right, so we're back here on Sporting Comments, and we're just going to hit you up with a little bit more draft talk.
We're going to cover a few draft rumors today, including Teddy Bridgewater, the Rams, and maybe even a little bit of that evil Tiger, Zach Mettenberger.
Oh, yeah, screw that guy, right?
No kidding.
All right, so first up, Teddy Bridgewater.
People have been saying he might fall out of the first round. Now, this would be really strange because at the beginning of the season, people were talking he'd be the number one pick. It was either going to be him or Johnny. Some people still say Jadeveon Clowney, too. I disagree with Clowney, but that's just my own personal opinion.
I don't know. I think he's undersized. I think he's overrated, but I do think that there's a lot of teams right now that need a quarterback, and I think that he's better than a lot of the quarterbacks in the draft. I don't necessarily think he's better than Johnny. I don't think he's better than Blake Bortles after watching him play at Louisville. I think he's got a good arm. He can put the ball in the money, but I think he's a bit undersized right now. He's going to have to get some more meat on his bones before he goes out there and he starts taking hits.
Well, here's the thing. A lot of scouts out there are saying the biggest knock against Bridgewater is he doesn't have the mental side of the game down. A lot of people talk about a quarterback being able to game manage as well as have the talent that Johnny has. Everybody accuses McCarron of just being a game manager. That's not necessarily a bad thing. That means he knows how to move the ball around, how to distribute and move the team down the field. He may not have the flash that Johnny has. Whereas what they're talking about here with Bridgewater doesn't have that. He's looking one, maybe two guys and then throwing the ball.
Yeah, and especially at a level like the NFL, I mean, that's important. you got to be able to be smart and to think a couple steps ahead, or else you're not going to be able to be successful, especially against those fast defenses.
You'll end up like that quarterback out of LSU a while back that got drafted number 1 overall by the Raiders.
Jamarcus Russell.
Russell.
See, forget his name because he's just so easy to forget.
He's one of the biggest busts of the last 10 years.
Yeah, he really is, and I don't know how much of that is. He definitely had the athleticism, and I don't know how much that is to blame on the organization or him. But back to Teddy Bridgewater, like I said, I think he's going to be an okay quarterback, and he might go out there and prove me wrong, but I just don't. He doesn't jump out to me as the stud that we were talking about earlier this year.
I don't think he's a top 10 pick. That's for sure. I think he'll go in the first round. He'll get picked up by a team that doesn't need to win.
Okay,
right
I
now.
don't think he's normally a top 10 pick, but do you think he's a top 10 pick this year because of what teams need? Does that make sense?
At some point, there have to be other needs that these teams can address. I don't think any of those 7 teams that people are out there saying need a quarterback.
Because people say the same thing about Johnny Manziel. They say he's not, a top 10 pick or first round pick, but teams this year need a quarterback, and so they're going to pick him. Is Bridgewater in that same boat?
I think so. I think he'd go higher in the first round than he normally would in other years.
Okay, so we've got Garoppolo now out of Eastern Illinois who's moving up a lot of draft boards. Teddy Bridgewater, Blake Bortles, and Johnny Manziel. Those seem to be the consensus top 4. How do you rank them?
Teddy Bridgewater.
Number 1?
No. I'm going over the names in my head.
Okay. Bridgewater, Bortles, Manziel, Garoppolo.
I would have to go Manziel, Bortles, Bridgewater, Garoppolo.
I'm surprised to say I agree with you on that one.
Oh.
I haven't seen too much of Garoppolo. I've seen some film, but I don't know. We'll see. Maybe he'll be like another Tony Romo and follow in his footsteps. Another 2 people, we mentioned Zach Mettenberger. I think he's moving up there. If you watch how he played at LSU, he's pretty good. Derek Carr, a lot of people have forgotten about him. He was way up there at the beginning. He's kind of fallen off, but he's another good quarterback. And let's not forget about A.J. McCarron. If I was the Texans, okay, I know I said in an earlier podcast, I said I think the Texans should take Johnny Manziel, number 1. Jadeveon Clowney, though, would be a good pick. And if they do pick Jadeveon Clowney, I would recommend that they take A.J. McCarron in one of the later rounds. I think, he's got the size to be an NFL quarterback. I know he's not flashy at all, but he's smart and he executes. He doesn't make very many mistakes.
No, he doesn't. And that was one of the big things that Schaub was having issues with. You look at their game against Seattle, all he has to do is complete a check down, and they can win the game. Makes a bad throw, makes a bad read.
Against Seattle?
Richard Sherman pick 6.
That's right.
So they need a manager. They have enough talent around the team. Like I said in that previous podcast, they have enough talent around the team where the quarterback doesn't have to put the team on his back. They don't need that necessarily. They have other talent out there.
Okay. What about the Rams, though? What do you think they're going to do right there? I think they're sitting pretty right now.
I don't think they really need a quarterback. I think they still like Sam Bradford. He's been competent.
Oh, no. I don't think they're going to pick a quarterback, but who do you think they're going to pick instead? What do you think they're going to do with that pick?
I think they got to trade it.
Why? I don't know why. I think, you got the number 2 pick. Pick up someone good. Pick up someone who can help you.
Why not? Well, you could do that, or why not move down a pick, get more picks?
Well, how far down do you think they're going to be willing to move?
Man, it depends on the offer, honestly. I mean, if I were them and I was getting an offer from a mid-round team, I'd take maybe their first round and maybe a third-round pick.
But where in the first round, how far would you be willing to fall?
I'd go 20, 25 maybe for them.
A second-round pick as well?
Second or third-round pick, depending on how far it is.
You know, potentially, I mean, I don't know. What needs – I mean, what do the Rams really need other than just a good team, a winning record?
I mean, they just need consistency. The issue is they have a quarterback. Their offensive line is still in the works, last I checked. So they have a lot of pieces that are there.
Now, the Rams traded – they got this pick in a trade, correct?
I don't remember, to be perfectly honest with you. So, but they have the 13th pick as well. We should remember that.
Okay, yeah, okay. See, I completely forgot about that. Then, yeah, maybe trading down would be beneficial, you know? Especially if there's no one there that they want. But who's going to move up to take that spot, though? The Jaguars don't need to. So, I mean, maybe if the Browns really want Johnny Manziel, they move up to that number 2 pick. Maybe if the Vikings decide they really want to put someone with Adrian Peterson, they move up to that number 2 pick.
It all depends on how much these teams think they need a quarterback out of this class. This is a really hard quarterback class for us to judge, I believe.
Yeah, there's a very intriguing players because there are a lot of guys that are, we know, got talent. They can kind of go either way. But there's a lot of guys like that. It's not just one or two.
Yeah.
So
I honestly think maybe other than Johnny, and I'm biased obviously, but I think other than Johnny, I don't think any of the first-round quarterbacks are really going to do a whole hell of a lot. I think it's going to be the McCarrons and the Mettenbergers coming in later in the draft.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if one of those two went to New England. Brady's getting up in years. It's time for them to start
just training the protege.
Like with Aaron Rodgers and Favre.
You know what's really weird to me is I keep seeing these articles like, oh, Johnny Manziel and Blake Bortles and Teddy Bridgewater are working out for the Jaguars. What does that mean? It's like, well, obviously they're going to be working out for the Jaguars. Like, duh, the Jaguars want a quarterback, so they're going to go ahead and watch the workouts, watch private workouts of all the guys that are going to be there. And every team's doing that. It's like all these quarterbacks keep going to these workouts, and it's like, hello, yeah, of course they're going to be going to these workouts. I don't see why this is a surprise or how that changes anything. It's just really funny to watch.
Yeah, this is going to be a really interesting draft. There's a lot of uncertainty in it, unlike previous years. There's no Adrian Peterson, where he's just obviously the number 1 pick that you want, that everybody wants.
I think you could argue that. Well, okay, I totally understand what you're saying there, but I think you could argue that about Jadeveon Clowney.
Yeah, I can see that, but I don't think all the teams think he's the number 1 pick. I think if you
okay, yeah, I get that.
I don't have anything to back this up.
I think he's the number 1. I don't think he's the consensus number 1 pick because typically those guys tend to be like, oh yeah, this is a can't miss quarterback, a can't miss running back. And now it's like defensive end, we can maybe get another defensive end, no big deal. But I think if you just look at pure talent and probability of success, I think Jadeveon Clowney's got to be right up there at the top.
I agree. I mean, salary-wise, he's probably the least riskiest. Because when you think about it, yeah, he's going to get a big paycheck because he's the number 1 overall pick. But in the long run, if one of these quarterbacks works out, they're going to make tons of more money than this guy will. So, something to consider.
Touche. All right, well, that's all we have on the draft. Coming up next, what are we going to talk about?
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. But yeah, thanks for listening. Next up, we got our next podcast.